In this video, we look at the 3 different performance and billing models available for Azure File Storage. Hello everyone, I'm Travis and this is Xareltos. Microsoft has 3 different billing models for Azure File Storage, each with different pricing and performance characteristics. In this video, we compare the 3 options. Before that, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Click the bell icon for notifications of new content, and check out my courses on Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365 and Intune Management, and Hybrid Identities with Windows 80 and Enter ID available on udemy.com. Links are below, and thank you channel members, your support is appreciated. Back to it. We now have 3 different options or billing models available for deploying Azure Files, including the newest option, Provision v2. Each have different ways of allocating capacity, IOPS, and throughput. Understanding the differences will help you deploy the right storage option for your environment. Let's start by recapping pay-as-you-go and Provision v1. The pay-as-you-go model is a billing model for standard storage accounts. Standard storage accounts run on magnetic hard disk drives. That limits performance. We'll talk about performance coming up. Pay-as-you-go is billed on the amount of capacity, transactions, and data transfer used. The more storage capacity or data transferred, the more it costs. That's what's meant by pay-as-you-go. Next is Provision v1. Provision v1 is the billing model for premium file shares. A premium file share runs on faster solid-state drives. The total IOPS and throughput are significantly higher than the pay-as-you-go model. Provision v1 is billed by the capacity provisioned. This is a significant difference from the pay-as-you-go model. If we provision 2 terabytes but only use 500 gigabytes, we pay for the 2 terabytes. Another important detail with Provision v1 is that the IOPS and throughput are based on the provision capacity. 2 terabytes for a premium Azure file share has baseline IOPS of 4024 and 203 megabytes per second of throughput. Space, IOPS, and throughput are bound together. If we need more IOPS for a file share, we have to add more capacity, even if we don't need that extra space. That brings us to the newest option, the Provision v2 billing model. This model is also based on standard storage accounts that use magnetic hard disk drives. Unlike the pay-as-you-go model that's billed on the space used, with the Provision v2 model, the customer is billed for the provision storage, IOPS, and throughput. And unlike the Provision v1, where capacity, IOPS, and throughput are bound as one billing unit, with Provision v2, each can be allocated independently. For example, if we had a small data set that needed high IOPS, we could provision a small amount of capacity and high IOPS and throughput as needed. The 3 are not dependent on each other. Storage capacity is allocated in 1 gigabyte increments with a minimum of 32 gigabytes and a max of 254 tebibytes. IOPS are added in 1 IOP increments with a minimum of 500 and a maximum of 50,000 IOPS. And throughput can be changed in 1 megabyte increments with a minimum of 60 and a maximum of 5,120 megabytes per second. Microsoft will provide recommended IOPS and throughput when a new v2 file share is created. These values can be modified. One item to note about Provision v2, there's limited region support. On the screen is a list of supported regions at the time of this recording. I expect more will be added in the near future, so check availability before you plan to use it. I'll leave links to the availability information below. Let's jump into the portal and see how these are created. Here we are in the Azure Portal. From storage accounts, let's create a new storage account. Select your subscription and resource group and give the storage account a name. And just like any other storage account, the name has to be globally unique and lowercase letters and numbers only. For the primary service, select Azure Files. That gives us the option for standard, which is the pay-as-you-go billing model. And we have 4 redundancy options. If we select Premium, this is the Premium v1. And with that, we only have 2 redundancy options. So how do we configure the Provision v2 billing model? Well, we need to switch to a region that supports it. Let's change the region to West US 2. That shows that the Premium Performance tier has a billing model of Provision v1. Let's change performance to standard. We get the pay-as-you-go option and the Provision v2 option. Let's select that. And with that, we still have the 4 redundancy options. Let's go to Next. All the rest of the settings are the same for the standard storage account. Go to Review and Create a new storage account if you'd like to. I already created a storage account, so let's go to that Provision v2 storage account. Here we are in the storage account. It shows standard performance and the file share billing is provisioned v2. Let's create a file share, go to Data Storage, and File Share. We'll add a file share. Give it a name, Share for this example. It defaults to 124 gigabytes and recommended provisioning. That's 1,205 IOPS and 81 megabytes per second of throughput. We can see these recommended values change as we modify the provision storage. That's providing us with the recommended values. We also have the option to set it to manually specify IOPS and throughput. Now we can change the capacity, IOPS, and throughput independently of each other. Minimum and maximum values are provided for each. Let's go next to backup. This is a test, so I'll disable backups. Let's go next to review and click Create to create the file share. Now we have our new Provision v2 file share. The size and the performance are listed in Overview. We also have an option at the top to change the size and performance. Notice we can only decrease performance once every 24 hours, but we do have that option now if we over-provision the file share. That is how to create a Provision v2 file share. The Provision v2 model provides flexibility to set IOPS, capacity, and throughput independently to meet the customer's need. The cost is calculated a little differently with the Provision v2 model, and the cost will vary by redundancy, region, and currency. On the screen is an example of calculating the cost for a 1,000 gigabyte storage account with 1,200 IOPS and 10 megabytes of throughput. There are two other costs to be aware of. If the space used for data and the space used for snapshots is within the provision capacity, snapshots are free. If the total space used for data and snapshot exceeds the provision capacity, there is a storage charge for the overage. Also, if soft delete is enabled, there is a charge for data during the soft delete period. Both snapshot overages and soft delete are billed at the provision storage rate. Let's review some items of interest for each of our provision billing models. This is a comparison between the three. Provision P1, the premium SSD option, supports locally redundant storage and zone redundant storage. There's no geo-redundant option. Provision P2 and PAYG support LRS, ZRS, GRS, and GZRS. Both have geo-redundant options. The maximum capacity of the storage account is different for all three. The maximum IOPS for the storage accounts is also different. The SSD option offers significantly higher IOPS, but that's based on the capacity provisioned. We would need to provision the maximum amount of storage to see over 100,000 IOPS. Provision P2 can go up to 50,000 IOPS, and that can be set independently of the provision storage and throughput. Pay-as-you-go has a storage account limit of 20,000 IOPS. There's also a maximum file IOPS for each storage option. Again, Provision v1 offers the highest IOPS per file. Then we have throughput. Just like IOPS, the Provision P1 SSD option has the highest, but that's dependent on the capacity provisioned. And just like IOPS, Provision P2 has a lower maximum throughput that can be provisioned independently of capacity and IOPS. The number on the screen for pay-as-you-go max throughput is the default. It's higher in select regions. Max throughput per file is significantly higher for Provision P1 than the other two options. Keep the per file IOPS and throughput in mind for storing files like FSLogic's profile containers. A user's profile is a single VHD file. Even if there's enough throughput and IOPS at the share level, the per file limit may cause performance issues. And something else to keep in mind, we can't switch billing modes on a storage account. If we need to migrate from a Provision P2 to P1, for example, that requires a manual file sync operation. That's an overview of the three storage billing models, including the newest Provision P2 option. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.